Hello friends, today I take up a new topic and this is secularism in India. My lesson plan includes why is it in the news, number 1, meaning of secularism, comparison with Western secularism, criticism, what was the view of Nehru on secularism, our first Prime Minister of India, the working of secularism in India, and finally conclusion. So friends, one by one I will discuss under these points. And as you know that recently the controversy over hijab, and now it is sub judice in the Karnataka High Court. So I will discuss all points in details, and I hope that you will get benefit out of this lecture. Friends, if you like my channel AJIS Academy, please share and subscribe on YouTube and get benefit out of these lectures. You will find numerous videos covering different subjects like Indian history, political science, Indian geography, Indian economy, general mathematics and reasoning, general science. And friends, you know that this is a free channel available to all. So please get benefit out of these lectures. Now let us start the proceedings. Friends, why I have taken up this topic? Because yesterday the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, asked all secular parties to come together. She spoke to her counterparts in the southern states that how the federal structure of our constitution is being bulldozed, as per the news item published in the Hindu newspaper. And now the recent controversy over the hijab worn by Muslim girls or ladies is sub judice in the Karnataka High Court. And in a country where there are multi-religions, it is incumbent upon to understand the meaning of secularism. Friends, you know that in our constitution, the word secularism was entered into the preamble of in 1976 by 42nd Amendment. 42nd Amendment. However, our constitution has been secular since its adoption and implementation. But the word secular was not to be found in our preamble. So in our preamble, 3 words were entered into. These were secularism, socialism, I mean the socialist, and third, unity and integrity in the preamble of our constitution. Now, what is the meaning of secularism? Friends, as you know, that it means that all religions can coexist peacefully without any discrimination in India. Friends, as you know that our country has so many religions: Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism. All these religions originated in India, and again Zoroastrians, I mean Parsis, fled away from Iran, I mean Persia, and they settle around Surat and Bombay. Similarly, after the arrival of the Muslim invaders into India, Islam religion also became prominent because they ruled this country for 1000 years. Since 712 AD, when Qasim captured Sindh. So, similarly, Christianity was also introduced into India in 1st century AD. So, we see multitudes of religion or religious denominations in our country, and so it means that equal treatment to all religions by the state. Thirdly, a state will have no religion, like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, Myanmar, or Sri Lanka. Friends, as you know that the Constitution of Pakistan starts in the name of Allah. So, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh have Islam as their state religion. Similarly, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, both have a state religion, that means Buddhism. In Arabian countries, what you find? Islam is the predominant religion. It is a state religion. So, unlike our neighboring countries, India has no state religion. It means separation of religion from a state. And finally, non-interference in the functioning of any religion by the state. But there are certain exceptions, and that I will discuss in detail later on. Now, friends, as you know that in our Constitution, from Article 25 to 28, the fundamental right relating to religion has been provided to all citizens, irrespective of the religious affiliations. Under Article 29 and 30, cultural and educational rights have been provided to minorities. So, what you see that an individual has the right to profess, propagate and practice their religion as per the Article 25 of the Constitution, but it is subject to public health and morality and the sovereignty of India. Again, it means freedom to manage religious affairs under Article 26. It means right to establish and maintain institutes for religious and charitable purposes. It means right to own and acquire property. I mean immovable and movable property, and it means right to administer such property as per the law. Now, under Article 27, the Constitution of India lays down that no person shall be taxed or compelled to pay any tax for the promotion and maintenance of any particular religion or religious denomination. This provision prohibits the state from favoring and patronizing or supporting any particular religion. Although, if an institution is governed or maintained by the private body or person, they can impart religious education in that institution. There is no restriction upon it. But whichever the whenever the institution is aided financially or managed by the state, there shall not be instructions or religious instructions or education. Under Article 28, no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institutes wholly maintained out of state funds. So, what you see that the Constitution of India under Article 29 and 30 provides for the preservation of distinct language, script and culture. It also provides the right to establish educational institutes of their choice for any section of citizens, and that's why we see that there is a mushrooming of educational institutes run by minorities, and the 42nd Amendment inserted the word secularism in the preamble of the Constitution. Earlier it was not to be found here. And in S.R. Bomay case, the Supreme Court established that India was secular since Republic. And the Republic was established on 26 January 1950. This is our Republic Day, when our Constitution was implemented, put into force. Now, the comparison between Western and Indian secularism. Friends, as you know, that in Western secularism, what you find? Number one, freedom of religion. Number two, every citizen equal regardless of religion or religious denomination. Number three, separation of religion and state. And number four, no state has its religion. So, these are the three important ingredients of Western secularism. You can find in the Constitution of Netherlands, Britain, France, Germany. All these constitutions will lay down these three basics of secularism that governs their country or the people. Now in our constitution, in the Indian context, what is the meaning of secularism? So one by one, I will give you detailed description of Indian version of secularism. So what you see that in our constitution, it allows extensive state interference in religious affairs. I will discuss in detail later on. There is no official state religion in India, as we have seen in Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Myanmar or Bangladesh or Afghanistan. There is no state religion as such in our country. Again, schools that are wholly owned by the state cannot mandate religious instructions under Article 28. I have already told you. According to Article 27, taxpayers' money cannot use or support any particular religion, and however, institutions that are not entirely financed by the state can mandate religious instructions according to Article 27, and a state can provide financial aid to maintain religious buildings or infrastructure in accordance with the law. And as you see that most of the historic buildings, whether it is archaeologically important or religiously important, they are being funded from the state exchequers for their maintenance. Otherwise, they will become dilapidated. So, a state can provide financial aid to maintain religious buildings or infrastructure in accordance with the law. The Indian structure has created incentive for various religious denominations to start and maintain schools and receive significant financial support from Indian government. and I have given you the detailed picture how the people of different religious denominations or religious affiliations have started schools or educational institutes for the purpose of preserving their culture, their script. So, Indian government has established a statutory institution to regulate and financially administer the historic Islamic centers, Waqf Council, historic Hindu temples, Buddhist monasteries, and certain Christian institutions. Similarly, now some critics opine that Indian secularism stems from the Vedic scriptures and its spirit is Sarv Dharma Sambhav. It means that respect for all religion. Sarv Dharma Sambhav, respect for all religion. Why? Because India is a multi-religious country, and so the important gist of Indian secularism is respect for all religions. Now, Indian secularism gives equal focus in intra-religious and inter-religious domination. It wants to curtail the intra-religious and inter-religious domination. What is the meaning of inter-religious domination? It means that no religion should dominate over others. And similarly, the intra-religious domination means that within a religion, no religious denomination or group should dominate other religious denomination. For example, in Islam, everybody knows that there are so many sects within Islam like Shia, Sunni, Ahmadiyyas. So, it is the duty of a state that there should not be domination of one sect within the religion, within one religion over others minor sect or weak sects. Similarly, in Hinduism, what we find, there are several sects like Vaishnavite, Shaivite, Smarta, or worshipper of Suraj God. Similarly, Kabir Panthis, Nath Panthis, Sikhs. So, it is the duty of Indian secularism that there should not be intra-religious domination. Now, Indian secularism also wants that there should not be any oppression of Dalits by the high caste Hindus, and that's why we find that how after getting independence, India enacted the laws relating to abolition of untouchability in 1955, and later on in 1989, Scheduled Caste Scheduled Tribe Atrocities Prevention Act was put into action so that there should not be incidences of atrocities against the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes by those people who are not members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, like caste Hindus, which is also included the backward classes. So these acts were passed. Why? Because the Indian secularism or Indian state wanted the end of oppression of Dalits. It also wanted end of discrimination against women, and that's why we see that in Article 15 it has been provided that a special care will be taken for the betterment of women and children. So our constitution also postulates positive discrimination. Now, it also wants that militaries must not oppress minorities, and that's why it has provided Article 29, 30, 25, 26, 27, 28 for the equal protection of law for different religious denominations. Now, the second difference is that Indian secularism deals not only with religious freedom of individuals but also with religious freedom of minorities, communities, and I have already discussed it, that how Indian Constitution provides Article 29 and 30 for the protection of minorities. Similarly, religious minorities will have the right to maintain their own culture and educational institutions. The third difference is that Indian secularism is concerned with the intra-religious domination. That is why Indian secularism supported the idea of religious reform like abolishing untouchability, child marriage, or lifting the ban on caste marriage, which was thought to be taboo in Hindu religion. So it lifted the ban of intercaste marriage. These reforms were meant to have equal protection of law for all religious denominations. Now, what are the criticisms that are being leveled against Indian version of secularism? Number one, it is argued that Indian secularism is a fraud and failure, since it is not secularism as it is understood in the Western world, but it is like a appeasement policy, an instrument of religious appeasement. For example, a state gives subsidy to those who go for Hajj pilgrimage. Similarly, a state conducts yatra, religious pilgrimage, for those people who are resourceless or who have become very much old. So, secondly, again, it is argued that secularism threatens religious identity, but a perusal of Indian secularism will demonstrate that it promotes religious freedom and equality. Again, Indian secularism is accused of advancing minoritism. Friends, as you know, that it is true that under Article 29, 30, there is a special provision for the safeguard of minorities, and I have discussed about it. But it is also true, or it is a fact, that no democracy can thrive without satisfying minorities. Even in the Western world, we find that special provisions have been earmarked for the development and progress of minorities. That's why Indian Constitution, our Constitution, also provided for the safeguard of minorities. Friends, as you know, that around 20% people are living in India who may be called minorities, and the biggest chunk among the minorities are Muslims. They form around 14 to 15% of our population. And similarly, we have Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Zoroasters, or Parsis. They all, and tribals, they all are living, animist tribals, I mean, in our country. So it is necessary to satisfy them. If they are disgruntled, if they think that military are torturing them, they are at the receiving end, then there cannot be a peaceful administration. It is necessary that there should not be the origin or the development of subversive elements among minorities, accusing the majority rule that they are not being taken care of. So friends, it is essential that we must satisfy our minorities if we want to achieve great power status, if we want to achieve more growth in our economy, because you know that without the peace and law and order we can't achieve higher growth or political stability. So that's why our constitution makers provided certain safeguards for minorities. Another criticism is that Indian secularism is coercive and interferes excessively with religious freedom of communities. Friends, as you know that it is false accusation, because the Indian state interfered only in that matter which it found discriminatory. For example, in Hindu religion, everybody knows that there are malpractices like child marriage, like sati system, ban on widow marriage, or no facility for women in the field of education, in the field of employment. So, Government of India tried its level best since independence to give equal footing to our women. Special efforts were made for the education of women, and that's why we find that now women are catching up with men. Now, Indian secularism promotes politics of vote banks. Friends, as you know that every party leader now tried to win away people of their own caste, religious denomination, and because of the lack of adequate economic development of our country, or still our country is in the making, the national integration process is still in the progress, and so what we see that most of the political parties and candidates seek to get vote by way of identity politics. So we cannot fault our secularism. Again, Indian secularism failed to stop communal divide in the Indian society. And friend, we know that how the electoral politics has divided our society on religious line, on communal lines. And we have seen this phenomena in 2019 general election, where people voted in masse for candidates of particular communities. So this is a wrong signal for the good health of our democracy, and we must stop this communal divide. What was the view of Nehru on secularism? Friends, as you know that Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the first Prime Minister of India, and he was at the helm of affairs for 17 years. He was the real founder of our economic or the infrastructure of our country. So he was also the part and parcel of the constitution making. And so what you see that he has a special views on secularism. He was dead against communalism, and he thought that secularism is only way to fight against communalism. Number two, a state that protects all religions. Number three, doesn't favor one at the expense of other religion. Number four, no religion for a state. Five, no hostility to religion. There cannot be complete separation between religion and a state. Why? Here, Jawaharlal Nehru differed from the Western concept of secularism. He thought that there are so many shortcomings in our society, whether it is Hindu religion or Islam or Christianity. All religious communities are suffering from certain drawbacks, shortcomings, and it is the duty of a state to remove those shortcomings, drawbacks. So there cannot be a complete separation between a state and religion. Again, a secular state can interfere in the matter of religion to bring about social reform, and that's why he brought so many social reform in our country. Like he brought a special Protection Act for abolition of untouchability in 1955. He introduced Hindu Code Bill by which intercaste marriage was legalized. Hindu women can get divorce, can remarry. So Hindu Marriage Act was also enacted in 1956. A special marriage act was brought by him in 1956. So it meant complete opposition of communalism of all kinds, and it was his firm belief that in order to fight the cobra of communism, secularism is the only way out. For preservation of our sovereignty and integrity of our country. Now, the working of secularism in India during the 75 years of our independence, how secularism has worked in our country. Number one, our state respectfully distance itself from religion, but also intervene when your religious groups promote communal disharmony and discrimination on grounds of religion. Number two, a state interferes when a religious group is unable to protect their own members from the oppression by another religious groups. Number three, Indian states abandons strict separation from instance it can not tolerate from religion. It cannot tolerate untouchability or leave all personal laws as they are, and that's why the Indian state made laws for the abolition of so many social evils that permitted in our society. Similarly, a state may give subsidies to schools run by religious communities. A state has to constantly decide when to engage or disengage, help or hinder religion depending entirely on which of these enhances our constitutional commitments to freedom, equality and fraternity. So friends, as you know, that the basic purpose of secularism is to promote equality, fraternity and freedom that has been guaranteed by our constitution. Now, I arrive at the conclusion. What conclusion we get from this lecture? Number one, secularism means, we can define secularism in various ways. Number one, secularism means a state should maintain equidistant from all religions, refusing to take sides and having a neutral attitude towards them. Again, another definition is, a state must not have any relation at all with any religion. The second definition is now applicable for the Western countries, but for India, the first definition of secularism is most important. Why? Because India is a multi-religious country. So, although a state should keep equidistance from all religions, refusing to take sides, but whenever there is a need, it must also interfere. So, this definition is most apt for our country. India should promote uniform civil code, which is necessary for the freedom of women of all religious denominations, particularly women of Islam religion, because so many restrictions have been imposed upon Muslim women, and that's why secularism will thrive if we enact uniform civil code, which has been articulated in our constitution under Article 44 of the Directive Principle of State Policy. So, friends, now I am winding up my discussion today. From this lecture, I will only say that secularism is the most important instrument by which the unity and integrity of our multi-religious country can be safeguarded. There is no alternative to secularism. Somebody wants that India should become a Hindu Rashtra because 80% of its population come from Hindu religion. This is a fact. But friends, you know that in our history, Indian state has never been a religious state. If we read the Dhamma of Ashoka or Harshvardhan or the Gupta kings, what we find? That Buddhism, Jainism and Brahminical religion or later on Hinduism developed or coexisted peacefully. So, it is necessary that we must adopt secularism. So, what if find that we must not adopt state religion. Secular state is only the guarantee for the prosperity, for the unity and integrity of our country. So friends, winding up my discussion, if you like my channel, my lecture, please share and subscribe. Please tell your friends that this is a free channel. Thank you very much.